Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So it's been a hot minute since I've uploaded anything. I think the last thing was Kenneth's Disney vlog. All done. Bye. But today we're back with another video, second video, and we're gonna be doing a story time on my birth experience with Jack and Juliet. And yeah, so stay tuned. If you guys want to hear about this experience, keep watching. So this has been the long-awaited video that I've been saying I'm going to upload, and I have yet to upload or film. But today we got some help. We got Mayeli in the house. She is helping me with the kids right now while I film this. So shout out to Mayeli. A special guest. Okay, so let's get right into this. So we're gonna start with the day my water broke. The day my water broke, which was the night before they were born, we went car shopping. That day I was already so stressed. Keep in mind, like days before that, I already had a gut feeling, and I would see that my stomach was dropping. But every time I would ask anybody around me, they'd be like, "Oh no, your stomach's still high. It's still high. It hasn't dropped, right?" So that was where I was losing hope, and I was like, well, it's gonna be a long time till I give birth, you know. So I kind of like took that out of my mind. But then that day, it was just like, you know, mom knows when it's time. That day, I felt so tired, and literally, I felt like any little step I would make, like my water was gonna break. It was just like a lot of pressure down there already. So we went car shopping, and everything was going south. Like nothing was going right that day. We went to like a lot of dealerships, and then we wanted something in particular. We were being really picky, so that wasn't helping at all. So we were out there like in LA area for about 5 hours until like we were like, we're so hungry, we're tired, let's just go back. Right before we did that, I really wanted to leave with the car. Like I wanted to be ready already for the babies. I started looking like online for like the car that I wanted and with exactly how we wanted it. And we came across this vehicle. So it was like 30 minutes away from where we were. And so I told Jerry, oh, let's go look at the car. So we get there and we fall in love with the car. Okay, we fall in love with the car, but dun, 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 dun. The bad part comes. We turn on the car and you can hear like a rattling noise on the vehicle. Dumb about it, whatever. So the point is that day was stressful. We didn't come back with the car. So keep in mind, I wanted to leave from LA at this point. So then we leave. We didn't. We just decided not to take it. We leave. The whole way back, I'm just like annoyed and stressed out at the fact that we didn't bring a car. And I was like, what are we gonna do? And then Jerry's like, dude, we still have time. It's okay. And I was like, yeah, right. Watch me going to labor. I told him, watch me going to labor because of this stressful day. Well, guess what happens? That night we get home. It's 11, like 10. We get into bed. And I don't know why, but something told me, like, because I would usually sleep with the pillow in between my legs. And something told me, like, don't sleep with anything in between your legs. Like, I don't know, I just had, like, a gut feeling. Don't sleep with anything because your water's going to break. And that night, I remember, like, I was, like, dormitiendo because I couldn't really sleep, but I was, like, taking naps, technically. And so, I fell asleep. Jerry, like, knocked out, and then I fell asleep. And then, out of the nowhere, like, at 12:30, basically, I hear, like, a gush coming out, right? Fluids. And I was like, oh, shit, it's time. So then I was, like, still kind of in shock, so I didn't react right away. So then I started to feel more of the fluids, like, because after that gush, fluids started to come out, like, popping out, right? So then at that point, I tried to wake up Jerry, and I'm like, hey, my water broke. And his reaction was like, are you serious? Like, for real? And I was like, yeah, like, get up. Come on, let's go. Tell me why, like, he acted so surprised, and then he went, straight back to sleep. He goes straight back to sleep. And then so I was like, all right, I'm going to let him sleep because I wanted to be prepared this time. And because my last 2 pregnancies when I went to birth, they were spontaneous. So I was like, all right, well, now that I know it's time, I already had everything ready, but I was like, I'm going to shower, go clean, blah, blah, and then add any extra stuff that I needed. So I did. I still got in the shower. I gave him time. But the moment I got into the shower, because mind you, I didn't have contractions. Like, I was contracting for like 2 weeks before that, but it was like on and off, and it was just like Braxton Hicks. It wasn't really contractions. So I was just letting them slide, But I got in the shower, and the moment I stepped in the shower, like my body got into water, I started to contract, like real contractions, like labor contractions, right? So I was like, oh shit. So I get out of the shower, and then at this point, I'm like, Jerry, hurry up, let's go, because water wouldn't stop coming out. Like, I'll insert some clips. I might have some clips of when I was walking out of my room and I was like recording of all the liquid coming out. So since I knew that I was like my water had completely broke, because with Kenneth it broke, but it didn't fully break. It was just like it teared. But this time it completely broke because my fluids wouldn't stop coming out. Even like as I was walking to the car, my legs were like full of liquids coming out. So I grabbed a towel. I grabbed like 2 towels, and then I took them into the truck because at the time we went in Jerry's truck, and I put them on his seat so I wouldn't get them dirty. So we get to the hospital, and keep in mind, guys, I was actually scheduled for a C-section. I was scheduled for a C-section. My C-section was supposed to be August 27th, and I went into the hospital August 19th, right? So I think I still had like a week left or 2 weeks left. No, 1 week left. And so I was scheduled for a C-section. That was the plan because I was given the option of having either a VBAC or a C-section. But I did do my research and I did ask because I just had a C-section in 2021, so like a year before this last birth. And so the risks were that if I had a VBAC, I was going to probably tear, like, because my incision's still new, it still hasn't fully healed from the inside, so I can tear. Or I was going to have one baby vaginally and the other one C-section. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And then if I have a VBAC, I don't want to tear because then that would mean emergency C-section plus surgery or something, depends what tears. So I definitely opted out on the VBAC. I said, it's okay. I already got to experience the VBAC, so I was fine with having a C-section again. And because with Kyle and Caleb, I had a emergency C-section. So then this time around, so I get there, and then they check me to see how far dilated I am and if my water had really broke. And so yes, the test showed that they broke, and then at that point I was already contracting strong, tolerable but strong. And they called my doctor, and then my doctor's like, oh, okay, just have her wait, like we'll see what happens, between 1 a.m. because by the time I got to the hospital it was like 1 a.m. And then so they're like, oh, we'll see what happens from 1 a.m. to 7:30. If she makes it to 7:30, then we'll have a C-section at 7:30. So she said, basically, I was going to have my C-section, but just at 7:30. So I was going to have to wait. So at that point, they admitted me and sent me to my delivery room. And the moment I got there, I just told Hera, just go to sleep. Because either way, I'm scheduled for a C-section at 7:30 a.m. There's nothing we can do, so just go to sleep. Just get some rest. So, él muy atendido, se durmió, he knocked out, and I was over there dealing with my pain, because I kept on asking for medicine. I was like begging her. It got to the point where I was begging her for medicine like at 4 in the morning because I could not with the contractions anymore. But my doctor had told her that to not give me anything on my IV, no medicine, no nothing, and especially no epidural, since I had my C-section scheduled for 7:30, and they wanted everything to be fresh and new. So I was dealing with it, and luckily I was the only patient my nurse had at that moment. So she kept on coming in, checking with me, keeping me company, and just conversating with me to get the pain out of my mind, which was helpful, but I was still in pain. Every time she would leave, it's like my pain would come back. So then I was waking up Jerry like a couple of times, and he would do like as much as he could, like massage my back and stuff. But then, like at the moment, having him right next to me and trying to help me feel better, I would just tell him, no, just go to sleep. Like, you're not helping, you know? But he was helping. He was there for moral support, you know. But then it got to the point where my contractions were just like 10, 15 seconds apart, and I could not tolerate damn pain. Like, literally, guys, I was like dragging myself up and down the bed, swinging, like moving from side to side. Llegó al punto de que that I dropped the phone, you know, like the phone to call your nurse or whatever, because I was like kicking around, moving my blanket. And luckily, I took my own blanket this time, so it was a little bit more comforting, but didn't help that much. I did download games on my phone prior to even going into labor and stuff, so I can be prepared, because it can be a waiting game at the hospital. And so I was trying to distract myself with the games that I had and watching videos and stuff, and nothing would work. Like, nothing. I would end up throwing my phone. The nurse came in. It was around 6:15, and she stayed there till like 6:40. And she was there talking to me, keeping me company. She was like even massaging me for a while. And I like begged her, I told her, please, please, can you give me something like Tylenol, anything like to take away the pain, even if it was temporary. I knew it was gonna be temporary. I was like, or can I get that epidural like already? Like, it's almost time anyways. And she's like, let me talk to your doctor, because he had said he didn't want anything. So then she calls him, and he says no. And I'm like, what am I gonna do during this time? You know, like, I was done with the pain. And then she's like, you know what? It was like 6:40, and she's like, no, what time was it? Yeah, like 6:45. Entonces me dice la enfermera, she tells me, I can either give you Motrin or fentanyl. And I was like, well, which one's stronger? Which is going to go to the pain for longer? She's like, all right, fentanyl. And I said, okay, well, give it to me. And she's like, the only thing, it's only going to last like up to 30 minutes, and then it's going to put you to sleep. So let it put it to sleep. Let it put you to sleep. Like, don't fight your sleep. And I was like, okay. Because I was really tired. I hadn't slept, keep in mind. Like, I only slept like 30 minutes, and I was at home prior to my water breaking. And so I was like, all right. And she said, and as soon as it's done, like it's wearing off, the pain's going to come right back. It's not going to like slowly creep on you. It's going to come like straight on. And I was like, all right, well, by that time, I'll probably be getting ready for a C-section. And so tell me why no duró nada. Because she gave it to me like at 6:50. It lasted me like probably like 8 minutes, because at that point, I remember I had to wake up Jerry, because I was in intolerable pain, and I could not. I was like screaming already, like crying, quejándome, not literally crying, but quejándome, moving around a lot, kicking, and you name it. And she comes back in, because she hears me, and she's like, are you okay? And I said, yes. Like, please just give me the epidural, please. Like, I begged her. And she's like, all right, I think we can. Let me call your doctor. But she's like, let me check you. So she checks me to see how dilated I was, and then I was 7 centimeters dilated. She's like, okay, you're almost there. Let me call your doctor to see if we can give you the epidural, or if he's here already, you know? And so, yeah, I guess she goes and calls the doctor. And tell me why. At this point, it was already 7:04, I want to say. 7:05. 7:05, yeah. When she's checking me, right? So the moment she leaves the room, it's already 7:06. And at that point, Jerry was already awake, because I had to woke him up because of my pain. As soon as she walks out, literally, I grabbed onto the bed, and I'm like hanging on to the little rail of the bed, and I'm on my side. Okay, keep in mind, and I'm like, Jerry, the baby's coming. Call her, like try to come back. He's like, no, chill. She said you're 7 centimeters dilated. Like, you're not ready yet. And I said, I'm ready. Like, trust me, I'm ready. Just call her. So I was like referring to like call her on the phone, but he couldn't find the phone. And it's because I had dropped it on the floor. So tell me why he goes running outside in the lobby to go get her. The moment he walks outside to go get her, all you can hear is me yell, like a scream, and then I pushed one or two times, and Jack was out. And that was by myself. Doctors hadn't came or anything because I was gonna get a C-section. Um, so I pushed him out. I remember I pushed twice because the first time I remember, like something came out, but I didn't know what it was. I was just pushing because I knew he had to come out. Like he was ready. And then the second push was like the biggest relief. I just remember I threw myself on the bed. So then Jerry walked. Oh, so after I threw myself, I pushed him out, and then I threw myself back. And when I threw myself back, Jerry was already running back with all the nurses because they all heard me scream. So they knew something was up. And then I'm pretty sure like the machines, the vitals and everything, like you can see them coming down or whatever. So then I just remember I looked over like in between my legs on the bed, and I made sure like the baby was there because I didn't know where the baby was gonna land. He could have fell or something. So he was on the bed. He was just like boca abajo still, but he didn't cry or anything. So I was even more sus, but I was just calm because I knew that the doctors were coming already. I was just so tired. And yeah, the doctors got there and everybody was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And then my doctor got there and he's like, "What? Like you really birthed your own son, your own twin? Like we haven't seen this in years." Especially like a mom birthing her own twins by herself. And then I was just quiet the whole time. I just was like responding yes or no questions because I was still in shock myself. My body was in shock, and I was just super tired. And then I seen all the NICU nurses, and then that's when like I was like, oh damn, like things gonna go south. Because when the NICU nurses get there, it's because something happened, or something's wrong. Because I've already experienced it with my past two pregnancies where my kids were in the NICU. And so luckily they came, they talked to me, and they're like, hey, we're just going to check that the baby's okay because we don't know how he came out, and we don't know, they didn't even know what time he came out. So they just estimated the time he came out because I wasn't looking at the time. So I think that on his record it says 7:08. I think that's the time that they gave him, 7:08 in the a.m. But so turns out when Jerry walked into the room, the baby was like head near closest to me, and then his feet towards the end of the bed. So at the end, they concluded that he was breached. So he came out feet first and then the head, which is why I felt like two different parts coming out when I was pushing him out, because I did feel it, but I didn't know. I just remember looking over and he was like head down and he was okay on the bed. So that was that with him. The nurses really, really attentive and really great service. So then the NICU nurses were like, oh, we're just gonna make sure that everything's okay, and thank God he was perfect. And then the moment they did tell me like, oh, he's gonna be able to stay with you guys, I was like, wow, like what? It was a shock because all of them, mind you, all of them have been in the NICU. Kenneth, Kyle, and Caleb, of course, the twins were there for like about a month. So I was like, what? He's not gonna go in the NICU. So I was so excited. That had already made my day. Besides him being born, obviously. So now we're on to the waiting game with Juliet. So all of the people are there, and then they bring like a ultrasound machine, because at that point the bands where they are keeping the monitors to keep track of the baby have been moved, because at this point we don't know where Juliet's at. They would have to go look for her, but since they don't have enough time to do that, because the moment I pushed out Jack, it can cause like stress for Juliet, or she might have moved down or anything, So they brought an emergency ultrasound machine, and that's how they were keeping track of Juliet. They had the ultrasound machine on my stomach the whole time. They removed all the monitors from my stomach. And then the anesthesiologist gets there all late. Llega and he's like, all right, let's go to the operating room. She needs to go have her C-section for the baby because she's breached. And then I voy yo. Bien tonta. Ahí vamos todos. They never, like, them too, they never asked me, like, hey, do you want to go to the operating room? Do you want to try a vaginal or anything? Nothing. So we go to the operating room, and I was like, I was already, I mean, I had just given birth to one. So I was already so exhausted. I was just like, just going with the flow, whatever they would tell me I was doing, you know. So we go to the operating room, and then they tell Jerry to wait outside because they were going to put the, it's called, hey, what is it called? Brain fart. It's not the epidural, it's the spinal block. They're like, all right, we're going to get the spinal block ready. Because when you have a C-section, they put the spinal block, if it's like planned, I guess. So I wasn't going to get the epidural anymore. I was going to get the spinal block, which is like, I think it numbs all your body or the lower half of your body. I don't remember, but something like that. And so I go and they poke me. Oh, I was contracting. At this point, my contractions had already come back. It's already been about 20 minutes since I had given birth. 30 minutes since I had given birth to Jack. So I was already contracting again like crazy for Juliet, and I still didn't have a epidural. I still didn't have any medication whatsoever. So there I am holding on to the nurse. I was hugging the nurse while they were trying to put in the spinal block. So this damn anesthesiologist, I kept on telling him, like, I'm contracting, wait, you know, like, don't put it in yet because I'm contracting. I'm more prone to move. And no, he would keep poking me. He poked me a total of about 7 to 8 times. And I actually have a picture of all the little holes that you can see that he would try to put in the spinal block, which I'm going to insert here. And that didn't work out. So then, luckily, thank God, my doctor gets there. Okay, keep in mind, my doctor didn't even know they had sent me to the operating room. Because he just came to check on the baby, and then he checked me, and he's like, all right, good, let's wait for the baby number 2. And my doctor gets there, and he's like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, she needs a C-section. Baby's breached, and I don't know what. And he's like, no, she doesn't. Like, she just gave birth to her, to the breached baby vaginally. Why would you guys be trying to get her to do a C-section? That's dumb. And then había una enfermera. She was really nice. She was really attentive, but she was a bitch. Like, it was her way or no way. Like, that's just how she was. And she's like, no, it needs to be a C-section. We don't know. It can be an emergency. He's like, all right, well, if it's, we'll have her vaginal here. And if it turns into an emergency, we're already prepared. And she was, le estaba dando contra el doctor. Like, come on. He's a damn doctor. He knows what he's talking about. So then he's like, well, I'm going to give her the option, you know. I was listening to everything, but I was just like in my own funk because I was contracting. But I was listening to everything. So then he's like, hey, Mom, you just gave birth to your breached baby vaginally. Do you want to try doing a vaginal with the second baby, or do you want to do C-section? He's like, because I don't see why you wouldn't be able to have a vaginal delivery with the second baby. And I was like, no, yeah, definitely. I didn't even let him ask me like 3 times. I said yes right away. So he's like, okay, well, now I'm going to give you the option. Do you want the epidural or not? You know, because we don't know how long it's going to take from here till you give birth to a second baby, right? And then I was already in so much pain, so I was like, F it. Let's do the epidural. He's like, all right, get your epidural done, and then I'll meet you back in the other room. And I was like, okay. So then he's like, I'm going to talk to your husband, and just so he's aware of what's going on, and he can meet you in the room. So he goes, talks to Jerry, and then the anesthesiologist tells the nurse, hey, bring me the epidural. And then tell me why esta viejita, la que sabía todo, she couldn't find the damn epidural. And turns out, I guess, while I was giving birth, there's an epidural shortage, right? I had no idea. But I got my epidural. So she takes forever, like 10 minutes to find the damn epidural because she couldn't find it. And then finally, the anesthesiologist had to go and get the epidural. At this point, it was already like 8:30 when he finally decided to go get the epidural himself and look for it. And he's like, oh, it's because they were in the drawer or whatever. And she's like, oh, I guess there's like a epidural shortage. She was telling the anesthesiologist. And so then he proceeds to put the epidural. So he does epidural. He puts the epidural on me. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to give you a tiny dose. Meanwhile, we get to the other room so that you can move to your bed comfortably. And then I was like, okay. So as soon as we get to the bed, they were getting me situated, putting like all these monitors back on me, and trying to find the baby again, Juliet. So then the nurse is like, hey, like, do you want to carry your baby boy? Meanwhile, baby girl comes down. And I was like, yeah. So the anesthesiologist still didn't have the chance to go around and put in the rest of the dose of the epidural, like fully proceed with the epidural, you know. So I grabbed baby boy on my chest. The moment I grabbed him on my chest, it was like not even like a minute. I looked back ahead and I'm like, here, grab him, because Juliet's coming. The baby girl's coming. So he grabs her right away. And as soon as he grabs her, the nurse who was atendiéndome, she was looking at like the vitals of the baby too, like the machine, and she could see that it was coming down. So she's like, all right, baby's coming, baby's coming. So at that point, ya pa qué? The anesthesiologist never went back around and tried to even put the epidural, because it was for what? I was already going to push. So, yeah. Sure enough, they didn't even have time to put up the damn paddles, you know, like the little things where you rest your feet to push. And I pushed, I think 3 times with Juliet, and she was out. And again, my doctor wasn't there, but the nurses were. So that was a good thing this time around. I didn't have to worry if she flew out. So yeah, she was born at 8:45. So a whole hour and a half later than Jack. She was born vaginally as well. And it was the best experience ever. Best experience ever, because I already got to experience like all types of deliveries, basically. I got to experience vaginally with epidural, fully epidural with Kenneth. I got to experience a C-section. And then this time around, I got to experience vaginally and with twins, non-medicated. Like, it was amazing. And the way me and Hera see it is like everything, God put everything, He prepared like that day for us, and He planned out the doctor's timings and everything, because if the doctors would have gotten there sooner, I definitely would have had a C-section, and I would have most likely had an epidural way earlier, and the outcome would have been really different. And He knew that I needed to have a vaginal delivery because I had my other 3 kids waiting for me at home. And it was the best thing ever, because I got home and obviously se reposé y todo, but I was still able to help around, like, and be with the kids and have them like near me, you know, because with the C-section, I was dying. Like, it was the worst thing for me. Like, I was already mentally prepared that I was gonna have a C-section and that I was gonna go through all the pain that I did. Like, literally, I was prepared. But thank God it didn't go that route. Because it was definitely the best delivery ever, and I would do it all over again, but not really, because I don't want no more. No, we are officially done having kids, and this was like the cherry on top on everything. So yeah, that was my birth story time. To me, it was something so beautiful, because I never in a million years would I have thought that I would be giving birth to twins vaginally and non-medicated. Like, it's so freaking crazy. So that was it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm definitely gonna be back with more videos this time around. I promise I'm gonna be uploading. Mayeli is my witness here.
I'm gonna make you.